And we are back here on the GSMC football podcast. And for the second part of the show, we are now going to talk about, we'll have a GOAT quarterback discussion here. So, again, we got 2 weeks that we got to fill before we get to the Super Bowl. So, obviously, this is kind of one of those conversations that people are going to continue to have. So, listen, I mean, what Patrick Mahomes has been able to do since he's, you know, became the starting quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs has been unbelievable. I mean, he's been in the conference championship game all 6 years. Now he's going to be playing in his fourth Super Bowl. I mean, it's unbelievable what he's been able to accomplish in such a short period of time. One of the crazy stats is the fact that he has the same amount of playoff wins as Peyton Manning. It's unbelievable what he's been able to do in a short amount of time. And a lot of people say, including me, is, if he retired, I mean, he'd be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's had a Hall of Fame career in a 6-year span. I mean, it's unbelievable. Of course, you add the MVPs to that. For me personally, obviously, I've only been watching football for a certain amount of time. I obviously was not around for the Joe Montana, John Elway, Dan Marino era, all those, back when, my parents tell me that was when football was football, and it wasn't, watered down a little bit with obviously flags and, the protection that the quarterbacks now have. It's a different game. And I agree with that. So, when it comes to like my list, I would say I'm only ranking like the quarterbacks that I watched growing up. And Mahomes is in the top 3. I mean, top 2. He's already like, I was having that discussion with my friends in our sports chat, and for me, like, I know that for some of them they weren't going to put Mahomes over Breeze and Rodgers because of the longevity. I'm already there. Like, he's already over both of them, and I think I think especially if he wins this Super Bowl. I mean, I don't think there's really anything to discuss. I mean, he's got 3 rings. I mean, Breeze and Rodgers have won 1. Peyton Manning's won 2, but the second one that he won was carried by the Broncos defense that year. So I would put Mahomes at 2. I mean, Mahomes is at 2 already. It's that, but that's the kind of career that he's had again in the short period of time. Now, the one thing that I don't like is that when it comes to now him getting into the discussion with Tom Brady, because most people are going to say Tom Brady is the greatest of all time. There are some people that don't. I would probably say I would say he is, because of the accolades and I mean, in clutch moments he's one of those quarterbacks that you want to have. And the amount of comebacks that he's been a part of. I mean, you go back to the 28-3 game. Now, again, that had a lot to do with the Falcons self-destructing. But you know what? If that was any other quarterback, I don't think they're coming back. I think Tom Brady had to be the guy to do it, because you can't count. If you have Tom Brady as your quarterback, you're never out of it. You're not, and he's proved that time and time again. But I don't like how people are just like, well, there's no chance Mahomes could be the GOAT because Brady's 2-0 against him in the playoffs. Okay. So, can we just context, I think, matters. And I said that yesterday, and it's true. Somebody else, one of my friends, said, you could say that about anything. And that is absolutely true. You could say that about anything. But here, so you're just saying, oh, he's 2-0 against Mahomes in the playoffs, so there's no way, he could be better than Brady. Well, can we talk about these 2 specific games? So the AFC Championship game, right? That game went back and forth in the fourth quarter. I mean, the Patriots were winning most of the game, and then the Chiefs offense woke up. The Chiefs actually got shut out in the first half of that game. But then they woke up. They went ahead. They tied the game or whatever. They went ahead, and it was back and forth. Then the game went to overtime, and the Patriots got the ball. They went right down the field, scored a touchdown. Mahomes never saw the ball in overtime. Okay. Now, again, both quarterbacks played great in that game. So it took overtime for Brady to beat Mahomes. Okay. So then we go to the Super Bowl. Um, Listen, Brady had a good game. He did, but didn't really have to do that much because the Bucs defense was the MVP of that Super Bowl. The Bucs defense is the reason why the Bucs won that Super Bowl. Brady was a part of it, but I mean, Mahomes was missing both of his tackles. He was running for his life that entire Super Bowl. I mean, Jim Nantz even said it, like those exact words on the telecast. Running for his life. I mean, he's like, he's running backwards and he's about to get tackled. He's throwing it up. I mean, he's still, trying to, will his team back. And again, they ran into a better team. Now, again, the Bucs were a very good team that year. The first 2 years with Brady in Tampa, that was a very good team. There were some growing pains the first year, but of course they were able to figure it out and they won the Super Bowl. But I think context matters. Like, Mahomes was missing both of his starting tackles. It's hard. I mean, Brady's offensive line, you look at what he was able to do. I mean, he had all day to throw. That matters. And so to say that there is no chance that Mahomes could pass Brady, I think is ridiculous. I think if Mahomes continues to do this and he continues to win rings, you got to have that conversation. I mean, listen, Tom Brady's had some bad playoff losses too. I mean, obviously he lost to Eli twice in the Super Bowl. He lost to Nick Foles, who was a backup quarterback. I mean, Mahomes, the only players that have beaten him in the playoffs is Brady twice with the Bucs and the Patriots, and Joe Burrow. And we'll see what happens further down the line. Because you got to remember, the Patriots went 10 years without winning a Super Bowl. Brady won 3 rings, his first, 4 or 5 years in the league. And then there was that long gap where he didn't win anything. And then it wasn't until the 2014 season where he, finally won a Super Bowl. And it was because the Seahawks didn't run it, and, Malcolm Butler gets the pick, and that started the second half of the dynasty. But, I mean, listen, I don't think you could just say, well, he's, Brady's 2-0 against him in the playoffs. I mean, even look at the regular season matchups. The first game that they played against each other, the Patriots won the game. Final score was 43-40. I mean, for the most part, Mahomes has played well in all the games that he's played against Brady. The only game you could really say is probably the Super Bowl, and maybe one other game. Because I know the 2019 game, that wasn't very high scoring, and the Patriots, they got off to a really good start that year, but offensively, Gronk retired. I mean, Edelman was aging. Jacoby Myers, N'Keal Harry, that team, that loss to the Titans in the first round, that wasn't a great team. But for the most part, I mean, these games have been against involving those two quarterbacks. For the most part, have all been great. All filled with drama. But, I don't think we could just sit here and say, well, if Mahomes continues to do this every single year and he starts right, and, if he wins again this year, that's 3, you gotta, he's got to be a part of the conversation. You can't just be like, well, he, again, 2-0 Brady was 2-0 against him in 2 playoff games. I just feel like that's a silly argument. Because, again, context. I mean, it's not like Mahomes didn't show up. You could say Mahomes showed up in the Super Bowl. I mean, again, he's like flying in the air, throwing a pass sideways, and, maybe the receiver holds on to it, and that's a touchdown. It's not like he didn't show up for those games. But I get it. And but for me, I think context matters. I think it's important. But either way, what Mahomes has been able to do, again, is unbelievable. Again, we're in good hands with the quarterbacks that we have in the NFL. Now, got to see, somebody else from the AFC win something, because it's just been Mahomes. You had the Rams win it with Stafford, but Stafford is part of that, that previous, era. We got to see, Burrow win something, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, now with Harbaugh going to LA, Justin Herbert, CJ Stroud just coming into the league. So, I don't want to get on him. But the Browns now with Deshaun Watson, even though I'm not really, I don't really think he's gonna revitalize. I don't think we're gonna see Deshaun Watson from the Texan days. I think those days are over. But still, like we're in good hands with the talent. But every year it's Mahomes. So in a year that we didn't think the Chiefs were gonna get back to the Super Bowl, they did it. They did it. They get to the playoffs and they just flip the switch and they're that same team. And listen, I think they're going to win it this year. I think they are. I know it's very early. We still got, a week and a half to decide. But listen, I already said, like, I want the 49ers to win, but the way the Chiefs are playing right now, I think they're going to do it. I think they're going to be that first team in a long time since Tom Brady's Patriots to repeat as champions. I do. I really think that's going to happen. And you know what? If I'm wrong, I'm fine with being wrong because I want to see the 49ers win. But it's really hard. It's really hard to bet against the Chiefs. Which people do. Listen, I took them with the points, but I still said the Ravens were going to win. But you know what the difference is? It's because they got that dude. Also, the Chiefs have had a good defense this year. But, my sister and my mom are saying, oh, the 49ers have all these weapons. I'm like, well, here's the thing. They don't have that guy. He's the equalizer. The Chiefs, on offense, you take Mahomes out, you got Kelsey, but who scares you on this offense? I guess Pacheco, but the receiving core is just, you got Rashee Rice, a rookie, Valdez Scantling, Justin Watson. There's not a lot. They don't scare you. Now, I think Rashee Rice is going to be a good player for them, but he's not a guy that scares you. You take Mahomes out of there, where's this team? So, I don't know. It's a discussion that's going to be had for a while. This is going to be the next Michael Jordan, LeBron James discussion. If Mahomes continues to rack up the rings, because he is on the doorstep of winning another one. So, but let me know what you guys think. I know this is something that people get annoyed at talking about, but again, just thought to give my opinion on the matter today. So before we go to our second break, just want to remind you guys again to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So when we come back from our second break of the show, we are going to talk about, Jared Goff and Dan Campbell addressing the media, talk about some of the things that they had to say, and that'll be the third topic of the show for the day. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.